Hey y'all. All right, we want to start into a new little series here. We're going to go over the next week or probably two. And I want to focus in on casting calls and auditions. I see a lot of writers that are becoming directors, people trying to shoot their own stuff, which is great. It's fantastic. But there's a few problems I see cropping up when people are sending out their casting calls and getting ready to host auditions. And I want to make sure that we're respectful of each other, that we're respectful of each other's time, and that we can do whatever we can do to get as close as we can to the type of product that we want. Be respectful of both sides of the table, both on the sides of the directors and the performers themselves. So this is what we're going to be going over for the next couple of weeks, a series of do's and don'ts. Stay tuned. We're going to get right into it. All right, casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts. First up for the do's is to be specific. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at casting calls that have gone out, and essentially the list of characters is just a cattle call list of some physical attributes and generic age ranges. If you're casting for a corporate CEO and you say that they're in their 30s, there's a big difference between a corporate CEO who might be 30 versus 39. Also being specific about gender, race, personality, all those things that can color a character and give the actor something to work with. Give them something that they can perform on and bring into the audition to show you. If you're just giving a list of physical attributes and a job description and a generic age range, there's nothing that they can do with that. So you'll find that you'll get better performances from your actors, you'll have better auditions, and it's going to hit it closer to that character that you want when you actually give them something to work with. So do be specific. All right, number 2 on our list of do's and don'ts for casting calls and auditions is date and location. Always on your casting call, list the date and location of when you're going to shoot, what your shooting dates are, where it's going to be. How can people possibly commit to your story and to your project if they don't know when it's going to be happening and where it's going to be happening? We all have busy schedules. We all have things that we're working through. We all have things outside of this acting and filmmaking business. So be considerate to the actors and the other people working on your project and list there on the casting call when this thing is going to be shooting and where it's going to be shooting. Now, if it changes, that happens, but at least give them the courtesy from the get-go to let them know if their schedule is going to align with it. That way, nobody's time is wasted. All right, casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts, number 3. All right, first off, you're going to want to indicate whether or not it's going to be a union. It's not going to apply to a lot of your actors or many of your actors, but you want to indicate whether or not it's going to be SAG-AFTRA or not. I'm also really advocating for putting what your pay scale is going to be per role right there on the casting call. We're living in a time right now where equal pay is very important, especially between male and female actors. And if you're transparent with that from the beginning, that's going to save you a lot of problems, and it's just going to be fair. People are going to know if it's going to be worth their time. I'd also really advocate for you paying everybody on your cast and crew at least something. I know a lot of independent projects are extremely low to no budget, but if you can just give them something, that would go a long way in setting yourself up as a professional and respecting the people that are lending their talent to work on your project. All right, continuing on with our list of casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts. Do state objectionable material. Now, I know everybody's definition of what is objectionable is going to vary, but I'm talking about things that are going to affect an MPAA rating. So we're talking about things like coarse language, extreme violence, gore, nudity, things like that. Not every actor is going to want to participate in a project that has those things. So if you have a performer that is uncomfortable or doesn't want to be involved with a project that contains gore or perhaps nudity, if you state that clearly on the call sheet, that their role contains those types of things, then they won't have to waste your time and your time won't be wasted. So again, it all comes back to this idea of respecting each other's time and being clear as to what you want out of the performers. That way, the people that are fine with that, they can come out for the auditions, and those who aren't won't be wasting anybody's time. All right, next on our list of casting call and auditions do's and don'ts is to do state genre. Now this helps because it comes back again to this idea of letting the performers know what type of film this is going to be. A lot of times actors can get pigeonholed into certain types of roles or certain type of films, or they may want to avoid certain types of projects. So if an actor is repeatedly appearing in horror films and they want to break out into something that's like a drama or a comedy, you can tell them that from the beginning, and that way they can know that this is something that they want to get involved with. Conversely, if they want to avoid something like horror or they know they're not good at action or comedic timing, they can know that this probably won't be a good fit for them. It's communication, it's respecting each other's time, making sure everybody knows as much of the project from the beginning so that they can decide whether or not this is a good fit for them. All right, continuing on with our list of do's and don'ts for casting calls and auditions. Do make a schedule and keep it, all right? Nothing's going to infuriate your talent more than making them wait a long time for their turn to audition. Schedule people individually and give yourself blocks of times. Give yourself wiggle room. I highly advocate you auditioning all of one single part in a block of time. So if you're auditioning for a Mary, see all of your Marys within a chunk of time and then give yourself a break. Allow the people that are working for you a chance to go use the restroom, to get a drink, get some food, check their messages, check the memory cards on the camera, see if those need to be swapped out. Allow yourself time to breathe and stick to your schedule. It's going to make everybody happier and it's going to make the whole audition process go a lot smoother. All right, up next for our list of do's and don'ts for casting call and auditions is to give direction. Nothing's worse than going to an audition, putting your heart and soul into a performance, and then having the director or whoever's hosting the audition say, okay, thanks, we got it, we'll let you know. That doesn't help you at all. That doesn't help anybody with the audition process. If you're a director and you're auditioning somebody, give them direction, give them feedback, allow them to run it again. If nothing else, just to see how they take direction, what they can do when given the chance to explore or give new ideas. That's going to happen every single day of your shoot. So learn how they take direction. Give feedback, allow them to play with the part and explore a little bit. That's what they're paid to do. And if you're cutting yourself off just with one take and then kicking them out the door, everybody's time has been wasted. So give direction, give feedback, and see where the part goes. All right, wrapping up our list of do's on the casting call and auditions, do's and don'ts, is number 8, do have a talented reader. As a performer, it's extremely frustrating if you're trying to perform a scene with somebody, you're reading with somebody off camera, and it's somebody that's flat, monotone, no inflection, is not giving you anything. Scenes are all about the communication or the chemistry between 2 or more people on camera. When you don't have that, when your scene partner is not giving you anything to work with, then it's extremely difficult to do your best job. So as a director or a producer, if you're hosting auditions, do your actors and yourself a favor by having somebody read that has some acting experience, is exceptionally well versed with the script, and knows what they're doing. That way you can elevate the performance of your people that you're auditioning and get a better idea of how they're going to work in these individual scenes. All right, y'all, casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts. We're working on the don'ts now. And first up for the don'ts is don't ever host your audition at your house, your apartment, or your hotel room. It's creepy. It's unprofessional. There's no good side of it. There's so many other options available to you. If you're at a hotel, you can use one of their business rooms, a conference room. You can use a room at a library. Many of them will allow for that. If you have a local theater in town, you can do a deal with them and say anybody that's in your company can come and audition if they fit our roles. And that'll help to promote the theater. There are so many other options. Do not be the type of person that's going to ask somebody to come up to a stranger's house or up to a hotel room number. It's unprofessional. You'll look better. The people will feel more comfortable and everybody will have a better overall experience. All right, number 2 in our list of casting call audition do's and don'ts. On the don't side, don't be alone. Now, this is important from a liability standpoint. If a performer's coming in to audition for you, it's odd and it's creepy just to be the only person in the room. You never want any question as to what went on in that room. If you can have 2, 3, 4 people in there with you, that's great. You don't want so many that you're going to overwhelm the performer and make it crowded and awkward, but anything is better than one. And just from a logistics standpoint, it makes the whole thing run easier. You can focus on just watching the performance. You can have somebody on camera, somebody taking headshots and resumes, other person maybe taking notes, another reader. There's lots of things that other people can be doing, and it also covers you from a liability standpoint. And it just makes the whole process more comfortable for everybody. So number 2, don't be alone. All right, y'all, number 3 up for our list of casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts. Don't audition pre-cast roles. If you've assigned a role already to a performer, don't insult them by demanding to see more people, okay? It's not fair to them. It makes you look like an amateur. And it's insulting to the people that are preparing for an audition and taking the time to travel and come in and perform for you. It just ends up looking like an ego trip, okay? So don't waste the time of the people that are trying to come in for a job that's not even really available. And then don't insult the people that you've said already have the role. There's no good side that comes from auditioning pre-cast roles, so just don't do it. All right, number 4 up for our casting calls and auditions do's and don'ts. On the don't side is don't have your phone out and don't have food out during the audition. I wish I didn't have to say this one, but I've seen it more times than I can say. Please don't have your phone out during the audition. Don't be messing on your phone. Don't be taking phone calls. Even having it on the table and buzzing or ringing during an audition is incredibly distracting. It makes you look like an amateur. You don't look cool by looking that you're very busy and you got all these people calling you. Just don't have it out. Put it away. Along the same lines, don't have food out. Don't be eating during somebody's performance. Give the performer the respect that they deserve by focusing on them during the audition. You can build yourself in breaks into the schedule to allow you times to answer your phone, return phone calls and messages, and have your food. Put that into your schedule. Please don't do it during people's auditions. All right, casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts. Number 5 up on the don'ts is don't be unfamiliar with your gear. Nothing disrupts an audition more than fiddling around with your camera, not being familiar with the settings. Be intimately familiar with your camera. If you got somebody else shooting for you, make sure that they're educated and they understand how the camera works. Be aware of your battery settings, your storage space, all those things that go into making sure that it runs smoothly. It makes you look really bad if you can't even shoot a audition without some sort of gear interruption. How are you going to be able to handle a film? So don't be unfamiliar with your gear. All right, number 6 coming up in our list of don'ts for the list of casting call and auditions, do's and don'ts. No NDAs. You don't need to bother your actors with non-disclosure agreements, especially at auditions. Look, they're not going to spoil anything with the 2 pages of size that you've given them, even if they do decide to talk about it publicly, which they know they shouldn't do. Most of us are working in the independent space. We're not casting big budget movies. The public isn't just dying for spoilers about our script. Just eliminate that unnecessary part of the process. And it feels a little bit like an ego trip. So take that out of your audition process. You'll find you'll have extra time. You'll have a little bit more of the trust of the actor. And it'll just make everything run more smoothly. And obviously it depends on your individual situation. But for most of us, you don't need an NDA at the audition. All right, y'all, we're down to our 7th and final item on our list of casting calls and auditions, do's and don'ts. On the side of the don'ts is don't be a jerk. This is probably the most important one of all. Look, there's already enough egomaniacs and nasty people in this business. Don't add to it. If you're in a position to hire people or give them work, don't use that as some sort of leverage over them, all right? Use it as an opportunity to lift people up and allow them to succeed and prosper and do it without losing your soul. Don't be a jerk. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people in the industry or heard in interviews. As much as somebody's talent matters, what also matters just as much, if not more, is are they willing to deal with you for months on end, perhaps even years at a time. So be easy to work with. Be a good person. Don't be a jerk.